Thank you, Mr. Chair. This education is something that's very close to my heart. Distinguished Chairman, distinguished colleagues, and distinguished resource person. Dahil ako po ay lumaki sa isang pamilya ng aking lolo, lola, and including my mother who is a former UP professor, grew up in a family of professors and teachers. And that's why, Mr. Chair, my first question is addressed to DepEd. Sa inyo pong pananaw sa ating kagalang-galang na representante, our USEC and ASEC from the Department of Education, medyo nagulat di po kasi ako doon sa sinabi niyong the scope and control, and if I may, you mentioned how can foreign entities teach in our country? Do I correct that right, Mr. Chair? DepEd, tama po ba ang narinig ko kanina sa kanilang opening statement nung sinabi nilang hindi maganda na meron tayong mga foreign teachers na papasok dito sa Pilipinas? It's a yes or no, Mr. Chair, if I may.
If I may, thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair. The opposition of DepEd essentially boils down to the removal of the limits set in the Constitution if this were to be enacted in subsequent legislation. We are not particularly objecting to the entry of foreign teachers because this is already present under our current system. But in the interest of uplifting basic education and the reforms that the department is currently undertaking, we are very wary about the possibility through subsequent legislation of removing the ownership limits present. Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may be allowed to redirect the Department of Education representative, USEC and ASEC. Ang tanong ko po, ang sabi nyo kasi kanina, tila ayaw nyo na magkaroon ng foreign influence yung ating mga educational institution. Pasensya na po, no? Because with the interest of time, can my question be answered with a yes or no?
With the indulgence of the chair, we would like to qualify that we are not opposing foreign influence, provided that it is consistent with the command of the Constitution that we teach our students patriotism and nationalism and other similar values, Madam Chair.
Yes, so ang ibig nyo sabihin, you really do not object because earlier yung inyong statement na binasa and even the copy that I have now is somehow really against the entry of competitors, the entry of foreign professionals, the entry of foreign institutions, citing national security. And with your statement na you have no objection to foreigners teaching values and culture in our institutions, I believe, Mr. Chair, that's hearing that statement from a DepEd official is something that I cannot swallow. Because if we talk about patriotism and culture of Filipinos, that should be taught by Filipinos. However, on the other aspects of how we can make Filipinos competitive, to laymanize it, Mr. Chair, para po sa aking mga constituents, ang katanungan natin dito is, papayagan ba natin pumasok ang mas improve na klase ng edukasyon para mas maging competitive ang ating mga kabataan?
Madam Chair, the position of DepEd is that for basic education, as the proposed amendment is couched, we are respectfully opposing this.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, my next question. Sa kagawaran ng edukasyon, in the whole DepEd family, ilan po sa inyo kaakibat na yung mga admin staff, including those in the regions and provinces, ilan po sa inyo ang nag-aral sa labas ng Pilipinas o yung nakakuha ng course sa foreign institution or for allied foreign educational institution?
We apologize, Mr. Chair. We don't have the figures for all the DepEd personnel.
Can you say that it will exceed the number of my fingers? 10 mga daliri.
I would hazard a guess, Madam Chair, for higher education, definitely.
For basic education, it's more than 10, right? Can we say that it's more than the number of fingers of the total resource persons that we have? O sabihin na natin, Mr. Chair, wala po tayong datos sa ngayon.
Right now, Madam Chair, we are not equipped with the data, Madam Chair.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chair, we have here an institution na ang naghahawak ng edukasyon at future ng ating mga kabataan. Pero ni datos kung ilan sa kanila ang nag-aral, kumuha ng course, nag-train, online man yan or nakaalis, or privately paid or government scholar para mag-aral abroad, hindi nila masabi dahil medyo marami sila, Mr. Chair. Now, let me put forward that question to my good friend, Chairman Popoy de Vera. In the Commission on Higher Education, ilan po sa ating CHED personnel, including all the SOCs in the Philippines, ilan po lahat ang nakapag-aral abroad or have taken any course or training in educational institutions outside the Philippines?
Madam Chair, I can give information only to the leadership level because it's difficult to get on the rank and file. But I would say on the leadership level, if the question is, did they get any foreign training, certificate, etc., I would say that the number is very high because it's one of the things we're trying to do in the Commission to expose our education leaders to training from international universities and also to encourage them to study abroad. That has been the policy of the Commission even before my time, Madam Chair, because there is no substitute for international education, particularly for leaders in higher education. And I'm talking of commissioners, chair, university presidents, all the way to the deans. I am a product of international education, so I can attest to that, Madam Chair.
So, Mr. Chair, let me put that second follow-up question to DepEd. Bakit po ba marami sa ating mga professors and teachers ang nangangarap o gustong makapag-aral sa educational institutions abroad? What is in there that makes our professors and teachers wanting to be trained and educated abroad?
Mr. Chair, as a general reason, it's probably because when they get diplomas from international schools, schools abroad, it means a higher credential for them whenever they apply for higher positions in the department.
Will you agree with me, Mr. Chair, and I'm addressing this to DepEd, that many, if not all, of the former presidents and the current president of the Republic of the Philippines had an experience in studying abroad? Let's say our colleague here, former President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, went to Georgetown University. Fidel V. Ramos went to the U.S. Military Academy, West Point. Even our current president and all the other leaders in our country. Ang ibig nyo bang sabihin? And if I may add, Mr. Chair, distinguished resource person, ilan po sa ating mga kabinete, sa ating mga USEC, sa ating mga ASEC, sa ating mga senador, sa ating mga kongresista, ang nakapag-aral sa mga Harvard, Stanford, Berkeley, Boston College, Boston University, and all the other Ivy League schools abroad. So, Mr. Chair, ang ibig ba natin sabihin kapag ikaw ay nasa pwesto, kapag ikaw ay nasa posisyon, kapag ikaw ay may kakayanang makakuha ng magfa-fund ng iyong pag-aaral, ay pwede? Pero kapag ikaw ay ordinaryong anak ng ating guro, o ikaw ay ordinaryong anak ng magsasaka sa Pilipinas, ay wala ka ng karapatan bigyan ng mas magandang edukasyon. Mr. Chairman, distinguished resource persons, I do respect all of your views. We're talking about here being pure Filipino, we're talking about patriotism. But does it make you less of a Filipino kung hangarin mong magkaroon ng mas magandang edukasyon? Does it make you less of a Filipino if you aspire to be competitive and teach our future generation and give them that opportunity na sa ngayon ay nakakamit lang ng mga mayayaman dito sa Pilipinas? Masakit yan, Mr. Chairman. Because I would have wanted to go to these universities. But as a product of a public school teacher, my parents cannot afford that. Kaya wag na nating lisin ang usapan ng economic chacha in terms of education. When we open up the Philippines, it is simply because gusto ng current administrasyon na maramdaman ng bawat Pilipino ang kakayahan na ngayon ay pinapakinabangan lang ng iilang mga mayayaman. Pasensya na, Mr. Chair, ako'y Bisaya. Medyo mahirap yung aking Tagalog. Let me move forward to my next question, again addressed to my two good friends from DepEd. I'm getting confused, Mr. Chair, because apparently the position paper of the Department of Education points to an objection of the proposed measure, not because of the quality of education, but it's more so because of their concern that this is a national security concern. Do I get that right, Mr. Chair? Distinguished resource persons?
Yes, if I may, Mr. Chair, before proceeding to the current question, we would like to distinguish that the mandate of DepEd is for basic education, Madam Chair, and the objection of DepEd is for the basic education provisions. Insofar as the tertiary level, the higher ed, the DepEd did not raise a position on this, Madam Chair. So if the, and we will leave it at that, ma'am. As far as the question on security concerns.
Yes, my question, if that cannot be taken out from my time, kasi I'll just reiterate my question. Yung tanong ko po, bakit po tila ang position paper ng DepEd ay ayaw nila ang economic chacha or ang pagbubukas ng edukasyon sa ating mga possible foreign investors? It's because of national security concern. I'm getting confused on that, so maybe you can educate me.
If I may, Madam Chair, again, this is only for basic education, K to 12.
Yes, but let's move forward to my question. What is the relationship between opening out, let's say we have here British School Manila, we have here International School Manila, and you were saying that in basic education, opening the Philippines will be a matter of national security concern. Bakit po? What is the umbilicus? Ano po ang kadugtong sa basic education and national security?
If I may, Madam Chair, the objection is general in nature to the possibility that legislation may open up basic education institutions without sufficient regulation of government, Madam Chair.
Pasensya na po, Mr. Chair, distinguished colleagues. Yusek, I salute your institution, pero tila po, bilang representante ng kagawaran ng edukasyon, hindi po namin naiintindihan on how you can educate us between the relationship of basic education and possible investors, possible opening up as compared to that of national security. Medyo salungat po eh. Ano po ang relasyon? Tumbukin po natin. So with that, Mr. Chair, pasensya na po, so with the interest of time, let it be on record that the representative from DepEd cannot justify their claim that this RBH 7 will serve as a national security threat. Tama po ba? Let me move forward to your next claim. Ang sabi niyo po dito, this will lead to a dilution of the fundamental aspects of Filipino identity, culture, and values to be taught. And again, you mentioned worse, endanger national security. Kaya hindi ko po naiintindihan, Mr. Chair, na kung papasok dito ang mga, let's say, high standard na mga schools, is that this will be a security threat. Because for one, they will be training Filipino professors. Ang tanong ko po, Dilution of fundamental aspects of Filipino identity, culture, and values to be taught. Ano po ba ang nangyari sa mga Pilipino naging produkto ng international schools dito sa Pilipinas? Marami ba sa kanila yung nabuntis? Marami ba sa kanila yung hindi nag-aral na? Marami ba sa kanila yung huminto na sa pagiging Pilipino? May I again propound that question to DepEd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are just concerned, Mr. Chair, that the basic education lays the foundation for the very young learners. And we know that at this formative age or formative stage of education, this is the best way by which we can inculcate among our young learners patriotism and nationalism. So it is more of our concern sa curriculum that is being offered by the Department of Education now, that is focused on patriotism and nationalism, which is the direction of the new curriculum as well. Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, distinguished colleagues, I fully respect Filipino culture. For one, I had my first communion with Pope John Paul II. At lumaki po akong pumapasok araw-araw sa simbahan bilang manunugtog. And mind you, I cannot see that the morals and values that were inculcated before in our schools are being sustained now, because of the influence of social media. Kaya nga po, Mr. Chair, nakakalungkot man. Ang dami nating teenage pregnancies. Ang daming mga problema sa kabataan na bata pa, minor pa, elementary or high school, nasa isabong na at nagsusugal na. These are all internal problems that the Department of Education should address. How many dropouts are we having? These are problems that should be addressed by the Department of Education. We should not dilute this issue by incorporating or linking it with RBH 7. Kasi masama mang aminin, bakit pabata ng pabata ang ating teenage mothers? Bakit ang dami natin mga kabataan na tila ngayon para sa kanila ay normal lang yung uminom at magsigarilyo at a very young age? Is it not a failure of how we are inculcating morals and values among our Filipino children? But this is another matter. Let me move forward, Mr. Chair. Earlier, ang sabi ng ating kalihim, a representative from the Department of Education, pwede naman po. Kaya lang, itong mga international schools is only open to foreign dignitaries and their dependents via legislation. My God, Mr. Chair! Nandito tayo sa Pilipinas. Tumutungtong tayo sa ating lupang sinilangan, ang ating pinakamamahal na Pilipinas. Why are we giving exemption na kapag ikaw ay foreigner, kapag ikaw ay anak ng ambassador, kapag ikaw ay anak ng isang foreign dignitary, pwede kang mag-international school. Pero kapag ikaw ay Pilipino, kapag ikaw ay pinanganak sa Pilipinas, kapag ikaw ay ordinaryong Pilipinong mamamayan, at hindi ka anak ng foreigner, ay hindi ka makakapag-aral sa mga ganitong school. Mr. Chair, can I get the wisdom of the Department of Education in situations like this?
Representative Garin, your time is up. That will be your last question. The representative from DepEd, you may respond.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
if I'll be
thank you.
given 1 minute extension, I'll be having my last question after the
Okay.
answer.
Yep, thank you.
Last minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The requirement providing an exception under the current Constitution for foreign dignitaries is really in the Constitution already, Madam Chair. This means that they have limited regulation by the Department
Mr.
of
Chair,
Education.
if I may, please don't take it out from my time. Ulitin ko yung tanong ko. Ang tanong ko ay napakasimple. Kasi you can actually suggest amendments to laws and regulations. Ang tanong ko, why are we giving special attention and privilege to children of dignitaries? Kapag ikaw ay anak ng ambassador, kapag ikaw ay anak ng foreigner, kapag ikaw ay anak ng executive ng WHO, ADB, pwede kang mag-aral sa international school. International schools are being set up at no profit to cater to the children of these foreigners. But the talented and intelligent Filipino children are scrapped. Hindi binibigyan ng pagkakataon na ito. Ano po ba ang rationale sa pananaw ng DepEd? Kailangan bang buksan natin ito?
Madam Chair, the presence of international schools in the Philippines are all created by legislation, and in their charters, there are provisions there that would also allow Filipino learners to enroll in these international schools.
Kaya nga, Mr. Chair, my question can be answered with a yes or no. Sa pananaw niyo po ba, is it fair to say that this is only open to the rich and it's only open to the expats, or hindi ba dapat ito ay ibigay sa lahat ng Pilipino na kaya academically or intellectually ang ganitong klase ng mga school? Di ba? So my last question, Mr. Chair. Ang sabi natin makakasama sa Pilipinas, hindi po ba pag maraming schools at pupunta dito kasama ang mga banyaga, just like what's happening to Vietnam and even Thailand and Malaysia and Indonesia, is it not that this will boost our economy? Hindi po ba kaakibat ng pag-aaral, magkakaroon yan ng galaw? Gagalaw yung mga jeep, gasolina, tricycle, maraming boarding house, maraming iba pa. And mind you, how about the global best practices? What does DepEd and CHED say on this? Dahil po ba ang ating hinaing ay purely Filipino tayo, how can we improve and how can we compete in this globally competitive world? Because Mr. Chair, pasensya na po, I do
Yes.
respect all their
Representative
inputs,
Garin.
but let me state in ending by saying, we cannot live in hypocrisy, Mr. Chairman. Because if we remain as hypocrites, saying na ang Pilipinas ay para lamang sa Pilipino, tayo po ay lulubog. Kasi ang katotohanan, karamihan sa atin dito ay palaging nag-a-abroad, nagbabakasyon abroad, nagpapaaral ng mga anak abroad. Gustong-gusto natin ang competitive standards abroad because we want to be more competitive. Mr. Chair, distinguished resource persons, that is not our prerogative only. That is a prerogative that should be given to every Filipino child or to every Filipino professional because they're all our brothers and sisters. Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair, and may I have the response of, again, our good colleague from CHED, from DepEd, and Mr. Dumdum from Correct.
Okay, that will be the last question of Representative Garin.